All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to be talking modules 53 and 54. We're going to be talking about sexual development. So, there are five big major points that we're going to be talking about. Talking about how biology or biological sex is determined and the role of our hormones in our gender development. Talk about how a lot of hot sauce for lunch. Describe some of the ways in which sexual development varies. Talk about STIs. They're not called STDs. That's a really old school term. I'll tell you guys why they're called STIs now. We're also going to talk about what influences people your age or human adolescent humans in terms of their sexual behaviors, and talk about what research has taught us in terms of sexual orientation. So, sexual development. The very basic terms we need to understand is that we have two kinds of chromosomes. We have X chromosomes and we have Y chromosomes. Females, as you guys know, because you guys already taken biology last school year, females have the two X chromosomes, okay? And then males have an XY chromosome. Now, strictly speaking, when one of the chromosomes loses a line of chromosomes or a leg in the chromosomes, that technically means that's a mutant. So I mean that I say that with a big grain of Himalayan sea salt. Okay, technically us males we are mutants because we're missing a leg from our chromosome. I'm sorry for us that are guys here. That doesn't mean we can shoot lasers out of our eyes or I don't know grow these claws like Wolverine. But technically we're mutants as they call it. So there are a couple of hormones that can go ahead and increase the likelihood and determine the gender of a person. Now, I will tell you that one of the big hormones is the hormone known as testosterone. It is a very important male hormone. Now, you might think that only males are the ones that develop testosterone and make testosterone. That is incorrect. Both females and males can both make varying levels of testosterone. It's just what it is that testosterone is made more by males in greater quantities, and testosterone is made in lesser quantities in females. That's just normal. It also works also in reverse for the hormone that is more commonly associated with females. Anybody know what hormone we're talking about here?
Estrogen?
Estrogen. Estrogen. Us males, we also make estrogen. That is just how it works. But it is made in lesser quantities versus those that are females. Um, a male that is all testosterone is a highly unbalanced individual. Anybody ever heard of the term roid rage? Shane, what is that?
It's like
It's like
when
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 I don't know
I
how
don't
to
know how to
explain it
explain it
honestly.
honestly.
It's
It's
I
I
want to
want to
say
say
it's
it's
like the
like
way
the way
men just
men
like
just like "Grr,"
like
like
get
get
big
big
angry
angry
mad,
mad,
but
but
I
I
don't
don't
really
really
know
know
how
how
or
or
why.
why. Okay, so
The
let me
person
explain to you why. You said it like "Arr," yeah. So a lot of times, bodybuilders, guys who want to get big for those Mr. Olympia competitions, they want to take shortcuts. And what they end up doing is they inject these hormones into the bodies. One of them could be testosterone to try to gain more muscle mass. And what's up happening is they get their hormone balance all out of whack, and they just get really angry all the time. It just gets, pardon the reference to Star Trek right here, but they get like Klingons, and they just get really pissed off and just start punching things and get really mad. And that's why they call it roid rage, steroid rage, right? So if someone just had estrogen in their system the whole time, obviously that would make that person a little bit emotionally imbalanced on the other side. So again, too much of any hormone is not good for any person. So that's why, and I'm telling you guys again because it's important for you guys to understand, males and females both make testosterone and estrogen. It's just in varying quantities. Okay, just be aware of that right there. So we know that testosterone is important because obviously it stimulates the growth of the male sex organs in utero and the fetus, and obviously it allows a male when they reach puberty to develop those characteristics that make them ready for sexual reproduction. At any point in time, you can ask me a question in the chat box. If you don't want to say it out loud, that's fine too. Just go ahead and say it in the chat box. So, This time period in life, that really different time period in life, I know for males, it's a very awkward time in place because you are going from that really high pitched voice to that really deep voice. Um, those are there are guys right here. Remember when you were in seventh or eighth grade or even sixth grade, and you started talking, and you were talking like hey, and you would squeak all the time. There's a reason that's going on is because your body is maturing and your vocal cords are developing more, but you already know all about that. So puberty isn't just for males, it's also for females. There are some characteristics you guys need to be aware of. So males and females both have primary sexual characteristics. We are talking about the body structures of a male and female respectively that allows for the reproduction of other human beings. Okay, just basically the mechanisms that allow production for more human beings. That's all it is, primary. Now, for males and for females, those would be basically the genitalia. Now, for males, that would be the testes, and for females, that would be the ovaries. That is all that is technically needed for making copies of other human beings. That is all that is needed, right? These primary sexual characteristics. Now, oops, I don't know why I did that. Let me exit this right here and restart it again. You bloody machine, not working right. Why did I get that British accent? I don't know. It's okay, Charlie. You can laugh. So obviously I always have a hard time pronouncing this word, but the mentra is the first obvious. It's the first cycle that a girl gets during puberty. That's what it is. It's just the first one right there. Okay. Now, secondary sexual characteristics, those that have to do nothing with reproduction at all. Okay. So, for example, breast in females are not needed at all in order to make more human beings. They're not needed. They're not needed at all. Okay, at all. Hips are also a secondary sexual characteristic because they are not really needed at all to reproduce and make other human beings. For males, what is a secondary sexual characteristic would be the male's voice. Again, that is not needed in order to reproduce other human beings. That's not needed. It's just basically, think of it like decoration, right? It's just basically for the eyes to look at. And the other one for males would be body hair. And again, these are secondary sexual characteristics. And then you guys need to be aware of it. I need to keep hammering it over and over again so you understand. This one is the only one that's needed, primary, to make more copies of human beings. These right here are not needed at all. They're called secondary. Okay. Now, with that being said, do they serve certain functions? They do serve certain functions psychologically to sort of make announcements to potential mates like, hey, I'm ready here to make more copies. Who wants to make more copies with me? That's basically what it is right there. Okay. Now, obviously, we know that in this term right here, the female breasts also are used to go ahead and feed babies. That's also necessary there. Hips, obviously, the old saying goes, the wider hips allow for easier birthing of a baby too. Male voice, body hair, it's just for decoration. That's all it is. It's like you getting a Xerox copy machine and putting ribbons on it and stickers. You don't need that, right? You don't need that. But that's just there as a secondary sexual characteristic to give more people more, stuff to look at. So these terms right here are referring to, and especially the mentra, is referring to the woman's first menstrual period. And obviously the first one, spermcha, is talking about the male's first development of actual male sex cells. That's all it is. Just be aware of those terms right there. Don't worry, if you're taking notes feverishly, that's good for you. But I will also have this video presentation up for you. You can go back and take a look at it, okay? Oh, does anyone still need to see this before I move on? We're good? We're not good, Alondra? We can move on? Okay, just making sure. It's a good thing that some of you guys have your cameras on. That way I can see your facial expressions like, yeah, stop, or keep going. So again, in adolescence, these are the kind of body changes a human male or female goes through in order to demonstrate that they have left childhood and moved on to adolescence in terms of sexual development. So you look at these pictures right here, the pituitary glands start secreting the hormones, which basically give messages to all these other different glands in the bodies. So let's take a look at both the males and females in terms of what it develops right here. We have underarm hair growth for both males and females, breast development for females, but not necessarily for males unless they're doing a lot of bench pressing in the gym, and that's totally different. That's nothing to do with this. This is a joke to try to make you guys laugh. The adrenal glands are also secreting hormones to make more changes. In females, the enlargement of the uterus, which obviously is a primary sexual characteristic and organ, that is obviously needed right there. Beginning of menstruation, which again allows for making copies of human beings, and the ovaries. Now, we also have the growing of hair in the bikini areas, as we call them, or you can call them the pubic area. And that's just to sort of get the body ready for reproduction of more human beings. So growth of the penis and testes and beginning of ejaculation. Again, I'm going to tell you guys right off the bat, these right here, the ovaries and the testes, and those are the only ones that are needed to make copies. These aren't needed. The voice, breast, hair, that's not needed. Just this. That's all that's needed for reproduction of more human beings. So the blue obviously is referring to males, and I guess the orange, red, pink, the other color. I don't know whatever the other color tells you how guys, us males, don't really have a high proficiency in looking at differentiating colors, right? Case number one right here. But as you can see this chart right here, the height of males for a little while seems to lag, especially around the time when puberty hits. I don't know if you guys remember back when you guys were in junior high, 6th grade to 8th grade, you might have noticed that girls grew taller than boys at that time period in your lifetime. Some of you guys may be going, yeah, it sort of happened. It's just because that's just how it is, right? Boys keep growing taller and girls after age 14, but then after a while it levels off, especially around age 14 or freshman year. So intersex is an interesting word that is being developed because there are human beings who exhibit both sexual characteristics, primary and secondary, of both genders. That is something completely normal. This athlete right here in question was an Olympic athlete. I can't remember what Olympics, but this person is a female, but this person has male genitalia and has male characteristics, but this person identifies more as female. It's very confusing. There are obviously a lot of textbooks, and I can go more in depth to this, but just be aware that actually does happen. Does that mean it's wrong? Nature does what it does. It just is what it is, and this exists, and you need to be aware of it. So, STIs. Let's talk about STIs. Who here took Mr. Rogers' class back your freshman year? All right, so you guys heard all about it, right? STIs. So there's a reason why we call them STIs and not STDs. The acronym STD is referring to sexually transmitted diseases, but technically the correct term is sexually transmitted infections because you can always get infected. The biggest one that you guys are taught about is AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. That used to be something that was very frightening back in the 80s and in the 90s because at that point in time, there was no treatment for AIDS. Basically, it was a life sentence. It was a death sentence once that person got AIDS. But more recently, with the invention and the development of antivirals, I don't know if you guys seen the commercials on TV, or maybe you guys don't even watch TV at all. But now they have what is it called? There's this medication that someone can take that could prevent the acquisition of the HIV virus. And I think it's Truvada or something like that. I think that's what it's called. A person can take that medication and engage in normal sexual acts without fear of getting AIDS. Now, the thing is, it only prevents AIDS. It doesn't prevent other different STIs. So be aware of that. But this one right here affects the immune system and it leaves you vulnerable to infections. Another STI is known as human papillomavirus. This right here used to be very prominent with females and for the most part, but it also has been rising in numbers in recent years in males. And this human papillomavirus can also cause cancer, which could also cause cancer of the various female reproductive organs, and also in males in the genitalia. Interestingly enough, and I'll leave you guys to figure it out, there has been an increase of cancer of the throat caused by this exact same virus, HPV. So just be aware of that. Now, let's talk about sexual development and teen pregnancy. Recently, in recent years, teen pregnancy has been going down. Back in the 90s, I'm just giving you guys some information about my high school. My high school was really ghetto, Delano High School. It was so ghetto that in summer school, people would get stabbed. Summer school. People would get stabbed in summer school. Yeah. And the other thing about Delano High School is that it led in teen pregnancy in all of Kern County. So we had the highest teen pregnancy rate in Delano High School in the 90s. Also, the same thing with AIDS. Now, most of those campaigns, most of those reasons had to do with a lot of different reasons, right? As you guys know, that a lot of times without information, you don't have power. When you have information, that empowers you to make better decisions in your life. Now, I know there's a lot of squeamishness on the part of parents to address this topic. But again, I'm just trying to give you guys information. Part of the reason that we had a lot of teen pregnancy rates and the high age rate in my high school in the 90s in Delano was because of the unwillingness of the school to educate their students on like, hey, you do this, you're going to get pregnant. Now, obviously, just being real right here with you guys, I'm not, this is just my personal take on AP psychology right here. But human beings will be human beings, right? Some people are of the mindset that it is best to arm you with the knowledge and the tools to prevent you or prevent a person from getting pregnant. On the other hand, other people say no, don't even do it. But again, I would caution the urge to make more copies of human beings is a very strong urge. It is one of those urges, and the joke goes, what is the purpose of a human being? To make more copies of another human being. That is basically, if you think about it, that's all we're supposed to be doing here on Earth, to make more copies of other human beings. So from my perspective, it's a little bit, it's not covering all your bases to try to prevent teen pregnancy or STIs if you just say don't do it. Don't do it, it's not easy. So anybody ever been here on a diet and you see a slice of pizza on the counter, it's really delicious, like, man, I'm so hungry, I really want to eat it. And then you take a bite. There, you just broke your diet. Apply that same mentality to the act of making other human beings. You know, it just happens. So again, minimal communications about birth control. Obviously, there's a lot of guilt associated with sexual activity, especially in the Latin community or the Mexican community. It's just never really talked about. You know, there's a lot of guilt associated with that. As a joke would say, no seas cochina, no seas cochino, which means don't be dirty, male or female version. It also has to do a lot with religious upbringing. You know, there are a lot of people who are very, and this is how they are, who are very against premarital sex outside of marriage. The other thing that could also influence teen pregnancy is too much drinking. Too much drinking. Now, please don't out yourself. Don't even smile. Don't even laugh. But if you've ever been to some sort of party where there's been a lot of alcohol, people do crazy things they're not supposed to do when they're drinking. And one of those things that could lead to teen pregnant or alcohol use could lead to people making bad decisions. Okay. And the other thing is, you guys are always exposed to a lot of videos, pictures that make it seem normal to just be with anybody all the time, right? So if you ever see any of those TV shows where people sleep with each other, they never talk about after. They never talk about, STI scare or a pregnancy scare. It's very rare that it happens. But a lot of times the way Hollywood or films show this kind of activity is not very realistic. Not very realistic. Okay. So let's talk about sexual orientations. So sexual orientation is, and I'm just going to read you the definition out loud, and then I'll explain to you guys in great detail. is an enduring sexual attraction towards members of either one's own sex, either being of the same sex or of the other sex, being heterosexual. Or sometimes it could be of the both sexes, bisexual orientation. So homosexual orientation could be male on male or female on female. And that's just how it is. Heterosexual orientation is male to female or female to male. And those are just very normal. And then we also have the one where a person could be attracted to both genders, male or female, if they are male or female, either way. Now, statistically speaking, there is evidence to point out that even in nature, there are a certain percentage of animals that are actually that do have homosexual orientations. Studies have shown that about 10% of the animals in the animal kingdom do tend to show a homosexual orientation. It's just normal. That's just how it is. And we know that in our society, it's getting a little bit better. Maybe not all the time, maybe not every single place, but acceptance of these norms, just basic human normal behavior, has been increasing, but it doesn't mean it has gone away. So one of the things I want to let you guys know is that the craziest thing that I always find very interesting is the kind of stigma that more recently homosexuality has had in our society. But what I always find interesting from a historian's point of view is that in the ancient world, it wasn't even a big deal at all. It was just like nobody, it was like whatever about it. The ancient Greeks used to be engaged in these acts all the time, and it was just like whatever. In fact, a lot of times the ancient Greeks would say, I'd rather hang out with my bros than with my wife. My wife's boring. I want to hang out with my bros. And then hanging out with your bros ended up being other stuff too. So just be aware of that, okay? So we do know that same-sex attraction does occur in other species. And there do tend to be some gay, straight brain differences. There does tend to be some sort of differences anatomically in the brain of those who have different sexual orientations. So again, it is sort of lending credence to the whole term. I was born that way, and didn't choose to be that way. Okay, so just be aware of those terms. And again, I'm trying to be very sensitive to everyone here, to everyone's beliefs and orientations. I'm just trying to say it straight the way it is. Well, no pun intended. I'm just trying to say it normal. All right. Sorry, it comes out wrong. I don't mean it that way. Okay. So let's talk about getting old. I know Miss Price here does not want to talk about getting old because she thinks it's icky, but you're gonna get old. And I'm gonna scare you, Charlotte, right now. You're gonna be a grandma one day. You're gonna be a grandma, and then Shane's gonna be a grandpa. I think Shane's gonna be a really cool grandpa too. And then Alondra, I think you're gonna be the one kind of grandma that makes cookies. I don't know why. I'm just joking around with you guys. So there are 5 big things we need to talk about quickly in quick succession before we move on. Identifying the physical changes. You're gonna change. Your body's gonna get icky and gross unless you don't let it. Talk about your memory. Talk about themes that influence your social journey, and talk about your confidence and all this other nice stuff right here. Okay. So according to Miss Price right here, these guys are really icky. So we'll go ahead and move on. Okay. I'm just gonna keep laughing. Okay. I'm just gonna be making jokes. So what happens when you get old? There are some physical changes in your middle adulthood. Me myself emerging into, and geez, I can't believe this. This year I will turn 40. I can't believe that. This year I will turn 40. There are changes I've noticed. Real quickly off the top of my head, I can't gain muscle as quickly as I used to be able to. So if you love working out like I do or being athletic, when you get older, you're not able to gain muscles like you used to be able to. I still wonder how The Rock, the Dwayne Johnson, does it, because that guy is massive, but I think he's just been doing it all the time. And I think he spends like 4 hours at a gym. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. So one of the biggest changes that we need to talk about for females is menopause. Menopause. For females, this is a time period where your body stops menstruating. No more periods, just as they say in slang. There's no more periods. What ends up happening is a woman's ability to reproduce at this time in their lifetime stops completely. What that triggers is a variety of different changes because you're no longer able to reproduce. It makes your body a little bit more susceptible to injury, and it also makes your body you start losing muscle mass. With that being said, can someone still have kids after menopause? And the answer is yes. Um, what was her name? It was the actress that played the wife of the Russian in the movie Rocky. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but this lady was close to 70 years old and she was still able to have a baby. Why? Hormone therapy. Lots of hormones. Why did she want to do that? Some people want to have kids no matter what. There have been cases of mothers who who had daughters and their daughters can't have children on their own. So what they do is they volunteer their body to be used as an incubator to basically be a surrogate mother. So just be aware of that right there. Damn it, Spock! Why does it do that? Let's continue. Exit. Come on, Perez. We only got 15 minutes left. What the heck's going on with you? You're making me look like a doo doo. All right, here we go. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, dude. It ain't that hard. All right, here we go. So here are some other changes. You don't get as strong as you used to be. You can't go as long as you could, right? And yes, this sounds very scary, but all of you guys are going to get weaker as you get older. But this is my piece of advice, only if you allow it to. All right. So put it this way, you know that you are going to lose muscle mass and get weaker. But the thing is, do you want to make sure that you lose mass and get weaker faster or slower? That's the thing you guys got to be aware of. Increasing the amount of exercise you do all the time, being more active is going to lessen the effect of old age on your body, right? You don't see as well as you did. You don't hear as well as you did. You don't smell as well as you did. And you ever notice how really old people only like drinking really black coffee, like just really, really strong coffee? There's a reason why. Their taste buds are not as sharp as they used to be. So just be aware that you start losing your sensory abilities. And we all know that your health suffers. You start getting sick, you have health conditions, and then your brain, not the brand, the brain gets a little bit old. All right. The one thing that old people have going for them is they have a lot of crystallized intelligence, which means they have a lot of experience and they can draw on their vast life experience to go ahead and think for themselves and be able to think faster. So one of the neurocognitive disorders would be Alzheimer's disease. A lot of studies have been seeing that most of Alzheimer's disease might be caused by an excess of metal in the body. And there's obviously also new medications out there that can go ahead and lessen the effects of Alzheimer's disease. The thing about Alzheimer's disease is it causes holes in the brain, which is even more crazy. So I don't mean to scare you, Miss Price. Go for it.
By metal in the body, do you, like, what do you mean by like metal? Like just like
No, we're not talking Metallica or Megadeth. What we're talking about is those studies that I was referring to talked about that these people who had Alzheimer's disease had an increase of, my God, was it magnesium, copper? And the crazy part is, if you ever look at a bottle of multivitamins, it doesn't just have vitamin A, B, C, and D. It also has like magnesium. It also has like copper. It also has all this stuff in it. Go for it.
But what if you have like iron deficiency and you have to take those to like survive? What are you supposed to do? Just get dementia?
No, what you could probably do is eat more. Taking your medication. Eat more. What the heck is that name of that food? It's green. They sell it at pita kebab. Lentil soup. Eat more lentil soup. I know lentils sound nasty, but if you put a little of pita chips in it, it tastes pretty good. And usually, what's interesting is that females tend to have more iron deficiency than males, and that has to do with some biological reasons, which you ladies already know too. So, but again, that doesn't mean that stop taking your iron pills. Just live your life normal. Don't worry about it yet, okay? I hope I'm not scaring you. If I am, that's good. All right, so when you get older, you're not able to remember things as much as you used to be. It takes a long time. Now that's different from not getting a good night's sleep and not being able to remember things. But it takes a longer time for people to remember your name. So like when you introduce yourself to somebody who's really old, they might not remember you the next time that you meet them because their memory is not as sharp as it used to be. Whereas for the most part, there's always outliers. When you meet somebody your age, you're able to remember their names right off the bat. And those of you guys that are in the Business Finance Academy, because I know there's a couple of you guys here, I think Mr. Hutchinson teaches you guys tricks on how to remember people's names when they introduce you. I keep forgetting what the trick was, but when you meet them is you look at them in the eye and you repeat their names out loud. That way you've already said it once and you practiced it. Just a piece of advice tip right there. So we do know from a lot of evidence, cross-sectional evidence, that as we get older, our memory does decline. But compared with other people of the same age, that's what is called a cross-sectional study. And then we also have, and this goes back to Unit 1, talking about like statistics right here. So a cross-sectional study is basically a study that studies people across different age groups. And a longitudinal study is a study that studies somebody in long-term study. So you study somebody for like maybe 20 or 30 years. You know what? That's insane. When you have a group of scientists or a school that studies a group of people all the way from like when they're born all the way till they die. And then they go ahead and publish the paper when everyone's dead already, maybe 50, 70, or 80 years later. Sounds creepy, huh? You guys shouldn't be afraid of death. If you are afraid of death, you're never going to live life. Now, it's okay to have a respect for death, but not be afraid of death. Does that make sense, guys? As you guys get older, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's okay to respect death, but not to be afraid of it. So I find this cartoon very interesting because you ever been to the mall when we could actually go to malls and you're lost and you're like, where am I? And you take a look at it. This one right here has a map and it goes, all right, you were born and you're here in the middle. I would say you guys are more like right here for the most part, okay? For the most part. All right, let's keep talking about what's going on. So, middle life transition. We're talking about getting old and in the middle of your life. We're talking about like maybe in your 40s or your 50s, or mostly by your 30s. So, we all have this thing called a social clock. What is a social clock? For example, what are some of the things that an 18-year-old needs to do in order that that society deems an 18-year-old needs to do? Does anybody want to take a guess?
Register to vote.
Say it again. Register to vote? Yeah, that's right, Alex. That's one of them. What else? What else is an 18-year-old supposed to do? Go ahead, Miss Price.
College.
College. What's the thing that's supposed to happen before you go to college, though?
Graduate high school.
Graduate high school. What's the other thing that's sort of assumed when you go away to college? You move out of whose house?
Your parents' house.
Your parents' house. See, those are social clock norms. Those are social clock norms, right? And I'm just asking you guys, forget what I told you yesterday about the optimal time for marriage, but around the age of 30, what is a person supposed to have done already by the age of 30? What do you guys think?
Like have a kid.
Like have a kid, which may or may not mean doing what in terms of a relationship?
Getting married.
Yes, either you do or you don't get married or some sort of long-term relationship or have a relationship. But by 30, people are saying like, well, maybe you should have kids, right? What about retirement? According to your guys' idea, at what age should a person retire?
60.
60-ish. Huh. Interesting. I'll tell you guys, I have an idea. I think I want to retire when I'm 65, which I think I still have, 25 more years to go teaching. Yeah, 65 too, yeah. Funny thing is, I think by the time you guys get into your 30s, they're going to up the age for retirement, maybe to 67. You guys don't want to take a guess why?
life expectancy is going to be longer.
I don't know.
No, yeah. Was that what you're gonna say, Alondra? Yeah. The weird thing is the federal government is very way back then was very calculating. They used to say, all right, well, at 65, people need to retire, but we only have to pay them their Social Security for like maybe 2 or 3 years. But now we're realizing with more technology, more medication, dude, you retire at 65, you could be all the way up alive to like maybe past 90. And that's like what, almost over 20 years. Yeah, over 20 years of paying out your Social Security check and your retirement. So that's why I think by the time you guys retire, even I think me, they're gonna up the retirement age, which I'm fine with. As long as I can still do my workouts when I'm 65 and like do all my works, I can still teach. But the minute that I start teaching somebody's grandkids, like, oh my God, that'd be crazy. The day that I have any of your kids in my class, I'd be like, oh my God, I need to retire already. That's really old. I'm really old, right? I know some of you guys are shaking your head like, no, I'm never going to have kids. I'm like, okay. Now, adulthood is marked by finding love and then losing the love and then finding love and then losing love and then finding it again. But these are some very big markers of what adulthood commitments are like. Committing to a long-term relationship. And again, I use that term as a broad category, okay? It doesn't have to be marriage. It could be a long-term relationship. Having kids, whether you have a long-time partner or not. Those are also marks of adulthood, being committed. Having a career. And there's a difference between having a career and a job, right? There's a big difference. Like for some of you guys, like I had a job in high school. I used to be a gardener. That's not my career. My career is doing what I'm doing now. So be aware of those differences right there. So, well-being across the lifespan. When you ask people, when was the best period of your life? A lot of people really won't say that last year or 2 years ago was your best time of life. A lot of times people say what I'm doing right now is my best time of life. Be aware of that. And this is very scary to talk about. Death and dying. Dying is a very scary thing, especially if you're having to go through it by yourself, right? But dying is a possibility for any of us here on this earth. That's just how it is. Very quick personal story here. I never died. I'm just telling you, I'm still alive. That'd be scary. Right? Somebody last year told me, did you die? Like, no, dude, if I was dead, I wouldn't be here. I'm a ghost. Yeah, I smell a ghost, right? That's weird. No, but dying is something that we don't really think about. But again, it's not something you guys should be afraid of. It's not something that's scary. I know it's something that you guys don't want to think about. And I'm not telling you to be all morbid about it and start getting all emo on me either. But it's something you guys need to be aware of that may or may not happen. One of the best ways that I am able to cope with that realization that this might happen to me is by just, being very stoic about it. If you want to be not so afraid in your life, this is not a religion, by the way. This is just a philosophy. Look up a philosophy called Stoicism, and they'll tell you about it, all about it. And again, it's not you don't need to be afraid of it. Just be aware of it. And when you are aware of it, you realize that your life is a little bit more full because you don't know. Tomorrow, something may happen. And again, I just went down a dark road, so let's get out of it already. Sorry, guys. The end. Oh, not that kind of end. I promise I'm never this dark, really. But I guess it's the pandemic that's making me a little bit more emo, huh? Well, let me go ahead and end this video right here.